All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our November Assessment and Accountability webinar. Since it's Veterans Day, I also wanted to say a big thank you to any veterans who are on the line, and we'll get started. A few housekeeping notes. Everyone joining today is muted, but if you have questions during the presentation, you'll be able to send them to the team through the questions page. Simply type in your question and click send, and we'll address it during the discussion. If you're having any technical issues, you can also send us a chat. Our team is monitoring it and will do their best to help. We also posted the presentation as a document, so you can download and follow along. You'll see that in the handout section there. As always, our presentation is also being recorded, and we're going to post it on our website along with a transcript of the presentation. I have a few announcements I wanted to share. First, we do have the new report card updates that include last year's information posted. As we've talked about in a few previous webinars, some of the traditionally included data are missing because of last year's COVID-19 disruptions. If you're looking for historical information on any of the metrics that aren't updated in the new report card, such as ISAT proficiency, we still do have that available on the SDE's accountability data page, so you can go there for historical data. Second announcement, we've released preliminary fall 2020 IRI data, and that was in response to a public records request, so that's why we had the preliminary data out there. We're still processing the final results. At some point this month, those should be posted on our site, and we will let superintendents know before those are released. Third, I wanted to let you all know that to facilitate training and support, the SDE has created a new user role in our ISAT portal, and this role is for capacity builders, regional content specialists, and instructional coaches who work across different schools and districts. That new user role is called District Instructional Support, and you may see it shortened as DIS, and they'll have access to various reporting features in that system, and that includes district and school data on interim and summative assessment performance. We're managing the initial rollout process for providing access to that DIS role. We emailed superintendents and district test coordinators on October 30th to ask whether they wanted us to provide access to that role for the capacity builders and coaches working in their region. So we've heard back from a fair number of folks, and so we're going to provide access where it was requested by superintendents. After this rollout, districts can still add users to that new DIS role. It would just be using the standard process for managing users. So we're just helping out with this initial rollout. And now I'll turn it over to Paul to talk about NAEP.
Hey everybody, I am your National Assessment of Educational Progress Coordinator, and I've got a couple announcements. Thank you to all of the principals who finished the Provide School Information process. Last week, I called many principals who have not finished the process. Many of those who I called still have not finished the process or partially completed the process. For those who have not completed any part of the process, I will email tomorrow morning and CC district test coordinators. This process is past due. For some behind the scenes information, I will send student data from IC uploads to the National Center of Education Statistics so they can choose which students will participate in the NAEP. This is the random selection that gives us the good data for state and federal level Congress and decision making. Please let me know if you have any questions, just call or email.
All right, good morning everyone. Thank you, Paul. This is Andrew Bennett to give you some ELPA updates. Okay, to ensure that all identified Ls are tested in the new year, the 2020-2021 access window has been extended by 2 weeks. The access test window will now open on January 25th, 2021 and close on March 19th, 2021. So due to the extended test window, district test coordinators should be aware that this did adjust the dates for the LEA pre-data validation and anticipated dates for LEAs when they should be receiving the access test results. If you have any questions about the revised dates, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Okay, the WIDA pre-ID file is uploaded to the Data Recognition Corporation in mid-November of each year and enables the test vendor to provide Idaho with the appropriate amount of access test materials needed to successfully implement all 4 sections of the access test. In addition, the WIDA pre-ID file provides L demographic information to the test vendor so that pre-ID labels can be printed, which are later affixed to students' response booklets. LEAs use ELMs to designate the mode of access administration, and LEAs need to check the pre-populated access mode of administration prior to the November 17th Idaho SDE upload, which is next Tuesday. So please make sure to be checking and verifying those modes of administration for all of your newcomers, kindergartners, and 2 through 12 identified Ls. Okay, there was a training held on November 5th that covered how to assign the mode of access and how to assign access accommodations within ELMS. So just in case you missed it, I am happy to say that this training is now available as a recorded vignette on the ELPA webpage. The recorded webinar link can be found on the ELPA webpage under the Training tab, or you can select the link at the bottom of this slide to access it. And look under the heading School Year 2020-2021 Online Training Vignette and WIDA Pre-ID File Training. Okay, the WIDA webinar series has been posted on the ELPA webpage under the Trainings tab, and below is information on the upcoming webinars through December 8th, 2020. So specific WebEx webinar links are embedded into the titles and can be found on the ELPA webpage under the Trainings tab under the webinar headings. These are very important for new test administrators and or new test coordinators to attend so that you can understand your roles and responsibilities at your LEA. The WIDA E Summit has come and gone. If you missed it in October, fret not, because you can still access the recorded sessions via the e-learning section within the WIDA Secure Portal. The recorded sessions will be available until the end of January. Check them out. They're very informational and are a great resource for all educators. And with that, I'd like to open myself up to any questions that you may have.
There are so far no questions for ELPA, but I do have a question for Paul. Paul, are you notifying anyone besides the principals that they are party?
Yes, so this time I will CC district test coordinators, and if a principal has registered a school coordinator, my school contact, I will contact them directly and then just bypass principals so that they don't have more on their plates.
Thank you. And Andrew from Kelly Glenn, we have a couple of alternate kindergarten students. Do those administering the kindergarten assessment to these alternate students need alt certification from WIDA?
It's always best practice to review the procedures outlined in the alternate access modules on the WIDA Secure Portal. Kelly, you are absolutely correct. At this time, there is no alternate access test for kindergartners. However, test coordinators should review the accessibility and accommodation supplement to assign any and all accommodations that are found in their IEP.
All right. As you can tell, this is not Karen. I'll do my best to muster her level of enthusiasm, but I think we all know I'm not going to get there. So I am covering for her today. She says hello to everyone. So we have a few IDAA updates. In spring 2021, Idaho is going to administer the new IDAA and ELA in mathematics, and that's going to be an operational field test for qualifying students in grades 3 through 8 and 10. And before those scores can be reported, the Idaho State Department of Education must convene standard setting workshops to determine scores for those 4 performance levels. So that would be the standard level 1 for below basic, level 2 for basic, level 3 for proficient, and level 4 for advanced. Idaho special educators and content area experts are going to participate in those standard setting workshops, and staff with Cambium Assessment, who is our vendor, will facilitate those workshops while the SDE staff attends, observes, and supports the work. 2 essential elements of that standard setting process are developing policy performance level descriptors, called PLDs, and developing range PLDs. Policy PLDs provide a brief description of the policy goals that are consistent across all grade levels and content areas for each of those performance levels on the assessment. The range PLDs describe what students should know and be able to do across the full range of each performance level, specific to each grade level and content area. The policy PLDs are developed really early in the standard setting process, while the range PLDs are drafted before standard setting workshops begin, and then they're finalized by the panelists on the very first day. Policy PLDs may be refined during that standard setting workshop as well. So Karen wanted to share with you a timeline and some steps for the preparation in those PLDs. This fall, SDE drafted the IDAA policy PLDs, and we're now seeking feedback on the draft IDAA policy PLDs. And we'll talk a little bit more about that feedback in a moment. This winter, the staff with Cambium is going to draft the range PLDs that we talked about. SDE staff will then review those for use during the standard setting workshops. In spring of 2021, qualifying students who have the most significant cognitive disabilities will take the IDAA in ELA and math operational field tests. And finally, we're going to hold those standard setting workshops in the summer of 2021. So the policy PLDs that we discussed, we have draft versions of those right now, and they're outlined in this table. Again, these are general statements about the knowledge, skills, and understanding that students with the most significant cognitive impairments are going to demonstrate on the IDAA in ELA and math. So they articulate the policy goals for each performance level and are used across all grade levels and content areas. These draft IDAA policy PLDs are subject to revision, as we discussed during that standard setting workshop in the summer of 2021. And I ask your patience as I read each PLD. Okay, here we go. So, level 4, advanced. The student demonstrates thorough knowledge, skills, and understanding related to grade level academic content in the Idaho Extended Content Standards. Level 3, which is proficient. The student demonstrates adequate knowledge, skills, and understanding related to grade level academic content in the Idaho Extended Content Standards. Level 2, which is basic. The student demonstrates partial or inconsistent knowledge, skills, and understanding related to grade level academic content in the Idaho Extended Content Standards. Finally, level 1, which is below basic, the student demonstrates minimal knowledge, skills, and understanding related to grade level academic content in the Idaho Extended Content Standards. So, Karen is going to need your help. She wants your feedback on the draft IDAA policy PLDs by completing the online survey that is linked to here. The survey should only take you about 2 minutes, and you can download the draft IDAA policy PLDs PDF, which includes all the information we've discussed in a 2-page document and a link to the survey as well. And that's on the Special Education and Alternate Assessment webpage if you go under Resources. And that survey for input on those policy PLDs is going to be open through Friday, November 29th. And Karen said, please do not hesitate to contact her if you have any questions on that process. Taylor, I don't know if we have any questions right now.
We do have one from Kelly Glenn. Will the IDAA have scale scores along with the PLDs?
So once the process is complete for standard setting, we will have scale scores and policy PLDs both reported out, but that will be in the fall.
All right, hello everyone. This is Kevin Chandler. Just a couple updates for science. First up, I want to remind everybody about the science sample tests. Science sample tests are available for grade 5, grade 8, and grade 11. Remember, anyone can log in as a guest user under a guest session and take those as many times as necessary. You can also administer one of those science sample tests with the test session. So go to the ISAT portal, click on the science assessments panel, then click on the sample test administration panel. Students can then log in with their first name, UID, and that test session in order to take one of those sample tests. We also have sample test answer keys posted for each one of the sample tests available. I want to remind everybody also about the science interims. The science interims are available also as well on the ISAT portal. We have 14 elementary, 19 middle school, and 20 high school. Each science interim consists of one cluster. We also have blueprints for each one of the science interims. Remember, blueprints kind of list out the alignment of each one of those clusters and let you know what the SEP, BCI, and cross-cutting concept is. We also have answer keys for those interims, and those are posted under TIE, under General Resources. Make sure you keep those answer keys secure, so please don't share. I also want to give you guys a heads up on these Idaho science specifications. Those are available also on the ISAT portal. Remember, those are documents that professional test developers use in order to create those clusters and standalones that are going to appear on the new ISAT science tests. Each standard has its own specification. I did also send it to our Idaho science coaches, and they have found it really useful when they're taking a look at those and thinking of different phenomena that can be used in the classroom. Okay, so I'm going to keep this slide in here. I know I mentioned it last time, but I'm going to keep it in here in perpetuity, just to give you guys a heads up of what's going on for spring 21. For science, we're going to have an independent field test. That, of course, means no ISRs or reported scores, but, of course, participation is required. And then in spring 22, we are going to have an operational field test, which means we will have ISRs and scores provided, but that's, of course, going to be after our summer standard setting. Any science questions?
None at the moment.
Excellent. Okay, well, I will keep going with the ISAT update. All right, first up, I want to give you guys a heads up on a few updates we made to the ISAT portal. We restructured the resource folders in order to kind of give them clear names and a better organization to the subfolders. So as you can see here, we have lots of different folders listed out there, and I hope those names give you guys a better idea of what is going to be included within those folders. And then in order to kind of give more organization to those folders, where appropriate, we've developed subfolders. And then I've also included descriptions of each one of those folders in this chart. So use this as kind of a reference material when you're logging into the ISAT portal and trying to find some resources. Speaking of resources, we have updated our user role chart for school year 2021. Up at the top here, we have our different Cambium assessment systems. It includes the name and the acronym that goes along with it. I forgot ABA for some reason, so I made sure to include that. We've also included the district instructional support role that Whitman mentioned earlier. We've included that also in the hierarchy chart there. Now, you might be asking yourself, what is this new DIS role? Well, we've also developed an FAQ that is also posted on the ISAT portal, District Instructional Support FAQ. It breaks down who this role is designed for, who adds the DIS role, user role and tied, what security measures need to be put in place for this new user role. And then, of course, if you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate to reach out. Of course, again, not too early to think about preparing for testing, so make sure you've assigned those user roles in tied. You've uploaded some students, and you've also created those rosters or groups of students, so those can be flowing down to reporting as well. User guides and quick guides are, of course, posted on the ISAT portal. And then, of course, complete your TA certification course. That's going to be required for any administration of interim or summative ISATs via the TA app. All right, speaking of reporting, just want to give you guys a reminder that reporting is one of our new systems. That's where the summative and interim performance data is going to be housed. So ORS, or the online reporting system, has gone away. That is no more. All of our student performance data is now housed in reporting. We do have a training module for reporting, and we also have user guides and quick guides posted on the ISAT portal. Now, I've gotten a couple of frequently asked questions about reporting, so I'm going to go through those real quick. First question was, I log into reporting and I'm not seeing any data. Why is that? Well, the answer to that is probably have not given any student assessments just yet. When you first log into reporting, I know it's a little disconcerting to see nothing there, but of course, reporting will only report out student performance data on assessments that have been given this particular year. Logically following that question is, well, how do I go back in time and see previous school year ISAT summative data? For instance, I want to go back to year 18-19. The answer to that is the My Settings tab that's up in the upper right-hand corner. You click on that, and then you click on the Change Reporting Time Period. Now, I want to get into the weeds a little bit here with the change reporting time period because there's two scenarios that you can go through in order to see two different groups. So, scenario one, in the change reporting time period pop-up, you can select a previous school year. Again, that goes all the way back to 14-15. And then to view data for students that are grouped into a current school year roster, you can leave the date set to today's date. That, of course, requires that rosters have already been created and assigned and tied. It also requires, of course, that students have taken those assessments. So I know that was a lot of work, so I developed a model to kind of demonstrate what that means. So we have our current school year, 2021, and we have our current roster of students. Remember, a roster is just a group of students. All those students are in grade 11. You want to go back in time. So you go to change reporting time period. In the first drop down, you select 1920, and you can leave the date at today's date. For instance, today is 11/11. You leave that date as 11/11. What that's going to show you is your current roster of students, or that current roster is assigned to you, but it's going to go back in time and show their performance data when they were back in grade 10. Going further back in time, you can select 1819. Again, leave today's date as today, and it'll show you the same roster of students in grade 9. Going further back in time, again, 1718, you can leave at today's date, and that'll show you that student rosters when they're in grade 8. And going further back in time, you can select 1617, again, leaving today's date as today, but you can then be shown that roster's performance data when they were in grade 7. All right, scenario 2. In the change reporting time period pop-up window, you can again select a previous school year going all the way back to 14-15. And then in order to show data for past school year rosters, you set the date to a date to when that roster was assigned to you. So I also developed a model around that, so let's go through that. So we have our current school year, 2021, and you have your current roster of students in grade 11. But you've been teaching in Idaho a while, so you want to go back and take a look at that student data for students you were teaching in previous school years. So in the dropdown, you can select 1920 and then select the date when that particular roster was assigned to you. I picked May 8, 2020. What that reporting then will show you is student performance data for that roster that was assigned to you at that time. Again, going back in time, you're still teaching in Idaho. You want to take a look at student performance data for the 18-19 school year. You select the date there when that roster was assigned to you, and you can then see the student performance data for that particular roster. Same thing going back in time. As you can see here, each one of those symbols kind of are modeling different student groups, and you're taking a look at that different student performance data. So I know that was a lot of words about that. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any kind of questions about reporting. We also have some training modules and user quick guides posted on the ISAT portal if you don't want to talk to me. All right, just a couple more slides for ISAT. Of course, we have our sample and training tests for those as well. Please don't hesitate to log in and take those. Same rules apply. You can take those as many times as necessary. We also have our interims. Don't forget about those. 3 different groups, ICAs, IABs, and FIABs. Those are available for ELA and math. And then, of course, don't forget about our new interim, the shortened interim comprehensive assessment. Remember that S is important. That signifies it's the shortened one, which includes just the CAT-only portion, no performance tasks or hand-scored items. That's available for grades 3 through 8, and that's going to measure student mastery of almost all the targets, similar to a summative assessment. Remember, that was developed exclusively for Idaho educators to respond to last year's testing disruptions. And then, of course, just an embarrassment of resources here on the ISAT portal. We even have a new one up here, 2021 Interim Assessment Guide for Administration, an overview, a planning checklist, interim summaries, just a lot of resources there to kind of help you guys walk through the interim testing process. Have to mention tools for teachers, give it a plug here. Again, sometimes you just need ideas for formative assessment strategies or accessibility strategies. If you have a user role assigned and tied, which means if a teacher has a teacher role assigned and tied, they can access tools for teachers and look up those formative assessment and accessibility strategies. Check those out. Speaking of tools for teachers, I want to give you guys a heads up on a new resource that's going to be coming down the pipe really soon. It's going to be called the Smarter Balance Annotated Response Tool, or the SMART tool. I always have the greatest acronyms. This new SMART tool is going to be available at the end of November. It's going to allow you guys to understand how student writing is scored on the ISAT. So it's going to support your writing instruction. Remember, writing instruction can not only be for ELA, but it can also be for math. You can browse a range of response types, and you can also explore some interactive scoring rationales and rubrics. You can also practice scoring some of those on your own or with some colleagues. That SMART link will be found in Tools for Teachers later in November. We're also considering a speech-to-text availability for our summative tests, and we're also thinking about maybe changing to a nightly student file upload procedure for time. We're going to have a jot form available real soon for you guys to log in and check out. So look forward to a communication for that particular jot form. And then lastly, of course, again, not too early to start thinking about spring 21. Right now, the flag is planted that we will have grades 3 through 8 and 10 required testing for ELA and math. At this time, USDOE has not waived that requirement for that testing. So keep in mind, we are working really closely with Cambium Assessment, our testing vendor, in order to develop those strategies to safely test students. Any ISAT questions?
We do have one from Jody Barnes. Is it still possible to get the detail from the reports like we had before, like the targets?
Yes, it is possible to do that. Remember that the target reports are only available for the summatives. So remember, reporting now has the interim and summative student performance data, but those target reports are still going to be available for the summatives.
All right, good morning, everyone. Want to share some IRI information and items and updates with you. First thing that I want to share, just to reiterate, is that we did release our preliminary state data in October, as Kevin mentioned at the beginning of the webinar. Our final aggregate data will be released later this month. Want to help you remember, superintendents will be notified prior to that data being publicly released. And if your district is interested in receiving the file from the State Department with your official fall IRI results, you can request that through Otis. K-3 teacher input is needed. Last week, district IRI coordinators received a survey link and were asked to send that on to teachers. This survey was sent on behalf of the Idaho Policy Institute, who conducts an annual independent implementation evaluation of Idaho's literacy intervention program. This is a requirement from the legislature. The State Department partners with the State Board and contracts with Idaho Policy Institute to conduct this evaluation. The survey is brief, designed for K-3 teachers who taught in the 2019-2020 school year at those K-3 grades. So we ask that you encourage your IRI coordinators to send that link on to those teachers so that we can get as much input as possible. Some things to know about Istation. They are currently working to norm the alphabetic decoding subtest for kindergarten. As you know, currently that subtest is only normed for first, second, and third grade. As a result, and part of doing that norming, kindergarten students in Idaho will be administered the alphabetic decoding subtest beginning in January. That's part of their national norming process, but scores from that subtest will not be used in Idaho reporting. It will only be used internally at Istation, so there will be no impact to kindergarten scores on overall subtests in January unless the kindergarten student has already gated into the alphabetic decoding subtest. If the norming is completed by Istation this school year, the intent is that the alphabetic decoding subtest will become a part of the spring 2021 kindergarten battery, but more details to follow on that. We also have a new at-risk Istation report. The at-risk report uses specific subtest data for each grade level to determine patterns of weaknesses that are related to reading difficulties. This is going to be available at a campus and a classroom level only, so not an individual student level. For specific information related to the grade level subtest analyses that Istation used to develop the at-risk report, you're going to want to log into Istation, click on that Get Help green button and search for at-risk report. That'll give you additional information about the subtests that were compiled and the analyses that led to the at-risk report. For now, you can see this report. It is filterable by the number of at-risk factors. You can also look for the specific risk indicators in this report. It can help teachers identify students that are going to need that close monitoring or intensive intervention. But I do want to stress that this report should not be used as a diagnostic assessment. Again, just to reiterate that we do have professional development for IRI available online. We have 2 IRI reporting vignettes that are being slightly tweaked and re-recorded to include the new at-risk report. So those will be available for you in the next couple of weeks. Watch for those. Any questions about IRI?
Not at this time.
Hi everyone, this is Aika. I'm going to talk about college entrance exam. You're already on the webinars. I'm sure you have already signed up for the newsletter, but this is just a reminder that if you have not signed up for the newsletter, the link is available on the Resource Center webpage as well as Coordinator Planning webpage. This is a reminder that January PSAT and NMSQT, the eligibility is those students who did not participate in the 2020 October test. The sophomore will be paid by the state. If junior wanted to participate, it'd be charged $17 per person. The invoice will be sent to schools. Book registration for January PN is optional if you have kept your October labels, but if you destroy them or if you lost them, you would need to do book registration again. This is also a reminder regarding AccuPlacer. Students with disabilities will be able to take AccuPlacer to fulfill the CEE graduation requirement. This year, due to COVID-19, College Board is offering AccuPlacer to schools again. And it is going to be paid by the state, and the administration will start in February 2021. Will be flexible schedule, and remote administration option is also available. If you are interested in taking this opportunity, I'd like you to identify 1 or 2 site managers by December 1st and complete the AccuPlacer site manager account request form to activate the account in the AccuPlacer platform. And also, please hold an IEP meeting with students and the IEP team to amend IEP for those students who should be taking AccuPlacer in lieu of SAT or ACP. And also, this is a reminder that spring SAT intake form verification is ongoing right now. If you haven't done so, please visit the Smartsheet link posted on the webinar and review your intake form that you've completed already. Any questions?
Not at this time.
All right, thank you all, everyone. A little bit of information for our next webinar is scheduled for 10 a.m. on December 9th, 2020. You can find the links to register and review our past webinars, as always, at our Assessment and Accountability Resource Center. We have the URL right there if you'd like to register for that upcoming webinar. Okay, we do have one final IRI question.
When are we able to request the IRI file in Otis? After they become public?
Great question. You are able at any time to go in and put in that Otis request for the file. You'll be sent the file once the data is released. So you can put that in now as a placeholder, or you can wait and put it in once the data is released. Up to you.
All right, thank you all again, and hope everyone has a good rest of the week, and we'll see you all in December.